There are 5 levels of manipulation. Most men remain imprisoned in the first, living their entire lives tugged by strings they never see, believing themselves free while their every thought, every desire, every reaction is scripted for them. And those rare few who rise through all 5 levels ascend to a place where they no longer even need to show their face, because they rule invisibly, feared and obeyed without question. But before you can grasp that final form of power, you must confront the humiliating truth of where almost all of humanity begins. Level 1, the naive. The naive are the masses who move like herds, thinking themselves individuals, yet reflecting only the impulses that were placed in them. They accept what they are told, they repeat the slogans, they trust authority without question, and when lies are fed to them, they swallow them whole and thank the hand that poisoned them. To watch them is to watch a puppet show where the puppets believe they are alive, not knowing there are strings pulling them, not knowing there are hands above those strings. This blindness is not innocent, it is fatal. It is the condition that ensures they remain fodder, expendable, the raw material upon which others build their power. Consider how easily the naive are swayed by spectacle. Give them a crowd that cheers and they will cheer as well, not daring to stand silent. Show them an image crafted with care, a smiling face on a screen, a symbol of authority draped in fine robes, and they will kneel, convinced they are in the presence of truth. Their emotions are their chains, and anyone who can tug at fear or hope can drive them like cattle. A rumor whispered becomes their certainty. A false promise becomes their religion. They do not question, because questioning requires the pain of standing apart, and the naive are terrified of isolation more than they are terrified of slavery. And yet, the most dangerous feature of the naive is not simply that they are gullible, it is that they defend their own blindness. They will fight for the very illusions that enslave them. They mock the man who doubts. They shun the woman who resists. They call madness what is merely clarity. This is how empires are built on their backs. They become willing guards of their own prison, attacking anyone who dares to unlock the door. If you tell them that the strings exist, they laugh in your face because they would rather die believing in freedom than live facing the agony of truth. That is why they are the perfect material for manipulation. They have no defense because they mistake chains for comfort. But let me torment you with a deeper wound. The naive are not only in the streets, they are not only in the masses who chant and clap on command. They are in your family, in your friends, in your workplace. They are perhaps in you, every time you accepted without question, every time you were swayed by appearances, every time you thought yourself free while acting only on impulse placed there by others, you were naive. The humiliation of this recognition is the beginning of freedom. To stay naive is to be disposable, a pawn used, sacrificed, forgotten. To rise beyond it requires the courage to see manipulation for what it is, and to admit that you have been a victim of it. So here is the agitation that must burn within you. If you remain at level 1, you will never rise. You will remain a plaything. Your hopes will be sold to you. Your fears will be milked for profit. You will be moved and used until there is nothing left of you but dust. And when you are discarded, there will be another fool ready to take your place, smiling, cheering, obeying. This is the fate of the naive, and it is the fate of most men. But it does not have to be your fate. You must see manipulation not as something distant, but as the very fabric of the world around you. Only then can you begin to cut the strings. Those who rise beyond level 1 enter a realm where they no longer react like the herd. They begin to see the strings. They begin to notice the hands. They no longer believe every word, nor follow every signal, nor bow to every idol. And once the strings are visible, they can be tugged in return. The next levels are not comfortable, and they are not kind, but they form the path from weakness to command. To rise is not to become noble, it is to become dangerous. But the dangerous are the only ones who are free. Level 1 is the prison. It is where almost everyone lives and dies. But it is only the beginning. Beyond it lies the second level, where men learn not only to see the strings but to pull them, though not yet for themselves. Those who reach that stage taste their first sip of real power, but they remain bound in ways they do not yet understand. That, however, is for the next step. For now, reflect on your own condition. Are you naive? Do you still bow without knowing why? Cheer without asking what for? Obey without questioning who benefits? If so, you are disposable, and until you rise, you are no more than clay waiting to be shaped by hands stronger than yours. And if the naive are clay, then the servant of power is the sculpted statue, shaped by the hands above him, but now given form and purpose to shape others beneath. This is level 2, where obedience becomes a weapon and manipulation begins not as an art of one's own design, but as service to another's ambition. The servant does not command from himself, but he enforces command with loyalty so sharp it becomes cruelty. He is the soldier who carries out decrees, the officer who silences dissent, the bureaucrat who turns the wheel of oppression while convincing himself he is only doing his duty. His manipulation is delegated, and that is what makes him both stronger than the naive and weaker than the true master. The servant of power has seen the strings. Unlike the masses, he does not believe the illusion of freedom. He knows there are forces above him, hands directing the play, and he accepts his role as their extension. He lies not for his own sake, but for his master's. He manipulates not from cunning, but from loyalty. He enforces illusions, suppresses doubts, and carries out the dirty work that keeps order intact. To the naive, he appears strong, because he is the one who commands them directly. But to those who look deeper, he is merely a vessel, filled with another man's will, emptied of his own sovereignty. His strength is borrowed, and what is borrowed can always be taken back. Look at history and you will see them everywhere. The guard who raises his sword on command, even when it cuts down his own people. The inquisitor who burns men alive, not because he hates them, but because the church has told him this is righteousness. The enforcer who imprisons men for words forbidden, while never daring to ask why such words frighten his ruler. They carry out manipulation with precision, twisting truth, spreading fear, inventing order where there is none, because their identity is bound to the authority they serve. Strip them of that authority and they collapse, for they are nothing without it. Their cruelty is not born of confidence but of dependence. And yet, do not underestimate them. The servant of power is far more dangerous than the naive, because he believes in control, even if it is not his own. He has tasted the satisfaction of bending others, of being the hand that pushes instead of the back that bends. He carries out manipulation with the fervor of a believer, punishing dissent as betrayal, rewarding obedience with empty promises. To the masses, he is terrifying, because he embodies the master's will. To his master, he is indispensable, because no ruler can ever act alone. The servant becomes the mechanism by which power multiplies, the echo that makes the ruler's voice thunder, the blade that makes his decrees flesh. But here lies the tragedy that gnaws at him, whether he admits it or not. The servant believes himself close to power, yet he remains its prisoner. His loyalty enslaves him more tightly than ignorance ever enslaved the naive. He tells himself he has risen, and in a way he has, for he commands others now. But he has only moved from being fodder to being a tool. And every tool, no matter how sharp, is ultimately disposable. The master may praise him, rely on him, even trust him, until the day he hesitates, until the day he questions, until the day a sharper tool is found. Then he will be discarded, just as ruthlessly as he once discarded others. The agitation of this level is sharp. If you remain a servant of power, you will spend your life enforcing another's vision, never your own. You will be feared, yes, but never respected. You will be powerful in the eyes of those below you, but weak in the eyes of those above. And when you are no longer useful, you will be crushed without hesitation, because loyalty does not protect, it binds. It is a leash disguised as honor, a chain disguised as duty. The servant's tragedy is that he mistakes proximity to power for possession of power, and by the time he realizes the truth, it is too late. But for the few who dare to question, who feel the emptiness of living as another man's weapon, there is a path upward. Beyond level 2 lies a darker, sharper mastery, the level of those who no longer simply enforce illusions, but who begin to weave them themselves. It is there that deception becomes an art, where the servant who once borrowed power learns to taste the flavor of creating it. Yet few make that leap, because it requires betrayal, cunning, and the courage to step out from behind the shield of loyalty. Still, if you aspire to ascend, you must. Otherwise you will die as you lived, serving, useful, disposable. And so the servant who dares to break his leash discovers the next ascent, the deceiver. This is level 3, where manipulation ceases to be borrowed from a master and begins to flow from one's own cunning. Here, men learn to twist perception itself, to cloak their intentions beneath charm, to hide daggers in words that appear as gifts. The deceiver thrives not on authority, but on illusion. He whispers promises he never intends to keep, He sows doubt in one man's heart while feigning loyalty to another. He paints pictures in the minds of the gullible, leading them into traps they walk into willingly, smiling until the jaws close. He no longer simply carries another's orders, he bends reality to his own ends, and this is why level 3 is both liberating and perilous. The deceiver knows appearances are more powerful than truth. He understands that men judge by what they see, not by what is, and he exploits this blindness relentlessly. He dresses in confidence, though his stomach churns. He smiles in friendship while calculating betrayal. He flatters the strong while undermining them in secret. To the naive, he appears trustworthy. To the servant, he appears equal. To the master above, he appears loyal. And yet, he is none of these things. He is only an actor, playing roles so well that even he sometimes believes them. But do not mistake this for weakness. It is precisely in this ability to embody masks that the deceiver gains his strength. For if reality can be hidden, then reality can be rewritten. Look to the courts of kings, and you will see deceivers everywhere. The advisor who whispers poison into the ruler's ear, guiding decisions without ever appearing to guide. The merchant who bribes and bargains, concealing rot beneath the language of opportunity. The lover who professes eternal devotion, while plotting escape or advantage in another's arms. These men and women thrive in the shadows of power, not commanding armies, not wielding decrees, but bending the rulers themselves through manipulation of perception. They understand that one lie, if believed, is more powerful than 1,000 truths ignored, and so they become architects of confusion, weaving webs where the strong entangle themselves and the weak never see the threads. Yet here lies the flaw that devours them. The deceiver's power rests on secrecy, and secrecy is always fragile. One uncovered lie can shatter a lifetime of illusions. One slip of the mask, one whisper exposed, and the deceiver is ruined. Unlike the ruler, he cannot enforce loyalty with fear. Unlike the shadow puppeteer, he cannot hide indefinitely. His empire is made of glass, gleaming, delicate, dazzling, but capable of breaking with a single strike. This is why the deceiver lives in perpetual tension, confident yet paranoid, bold yet fearful, tasting power but never secure in it. He ascends beyond servitude, yet remains chained by the constant risk of exposure. And so you must feel the agitation of this level. If you remain a deceiver, your life will be one of constant masks, never truth, never rest. You will weave illusions, yes, but you will live trapped within them, forever dancing on a stage where one misstep means ruin. You will seduce, betray, manipulate, and for a time you may taste power, sweeter than anything you knew as a servant. But that taste comes with poison, for every lie creates a debt, and every mask conceals a weakness. The deceiver's brilliance is also his curse. To thrive, he must never stop deceiving, never stop weaving, never stop acting. And one day, exhaustion or exposure will end him. Still, the promise of this level is undeniable, for here you no longer bend to another's command, you bend others to yours. You shape their beliefs, their choices, their very reality, and if you master it, you gain the first true glimpse of freedom from being merely a pawn. Yet to rise beyond the deceiver, you must embrace something harsher still. You must move from weaving illusions in the shadows to wielding authority in the light. The next level belongs not to the whisperers and courtiers, but to those who step forward, command openly, and bend men by decree. That transformation, however, belongs to the next ascent. For now, ask yourself, are you still hiding behind masks, fearing exposure, or are you prepared to risk everything and seize the throne itself? And when the mask is cast aside, when illusion is no longer enough, the manipulator must step into the open as the dominator. This is level 4, where power ceases to hide behind whispers and emerges as command. Here manipulation is no longer subtle, it is decree, law, force. The dominator bends reality, not by convincing others of illusions, but by declaring what reality is and punishing those who resist. He does not need to charm, for his authority compels. He does not need to deceive, for his crown or his office, his army or his wealth make his words flesh. At this level, manipulation becomes raw governance. To speak is to command is to shape the lives of thousands. Yet with this authority comes a new vulnerability, one as sharp as it is obvious. The dominator is a king, a ruler, a leader whose face is known to all. His manipulation is simple: obey me because I have the means to crush you if you do not. He makes men bow, not through seduction, but through fear. He bends truth, not with lies, but with proclamations. He says, "This is law," and suddenly it is. He says, "This man is guilty," and the man becomes a criminal. He says, "This war is just," and blood flows in rivers, sanctified by his word alone. The dominator bends the will of the masses by sheer presence, commanding armies, issuing decrees, reshaping nations. But because he stands in the light, his enemies always see him. His strength is vast, but so is his exposure. History is littered with dominators, some who reigned for decades, others who were toppled overnight. The emperor who demanded worship until his own guards betrayed him. The tyrant who silenced every voice of dissent until the people rose in fury and ripped him from his throne. The dictator who bent a nation's mind to his will, only to find himself devoured by the very machine he built. The dominator has authority unmatched, but he lives every day on the edge of overthrow. For every decree that strengthens him also sows resentment. Every fear he instills builds hatred in silence. And no matter how high his throne, it always stands on fragile foundations. The loyalty of soldiers, the fear of citizens, the silence of rivals. Once these crack, his fall is swift and merciless. The agitation of this level is suffocating. To rule as a dominator is to live surrounded by daggers, some hidden, some visible, all waiting for the chance to strike. He may appear invincible, commanding millions, yet he is often the loneliest man alive, trusting no one, fearing betrayal from his closest circle. His manipulation is absolute while it lasts, but it breeds enemies who dream of nothing but his destruction. For the deceiver, exposure meant ruin. For the dominator, exposure is constant, and ruin is always a conspiracy away. He manipulates openly, but this very openness makes him a target, marked by ambition, jealousy, revenge. He may survive for years, even decades, but his end is almost always violent. The axe, the rope, the bullet, these are the shadows that stalk every dominator. And yet, the promise of this level cannot be denied. For the dominator, power is not illusion, it is reality. His commands change laws, his gestures move armies, his words ignite revolutions. He is no longer the whisperer behind the throne, he is the throne. And to wield such power, even knowing its danger, is to taste what gods must feel, the ability to bend entire worlds with nothing but one's will. Most who ascend to this level cling to it until their last breath, preferring the risk of assassination to the emptiness of stepping down. For the intoxication of open power is stronger than any wine, more addictive than any lie. But beyond the dominator lies a final transformation, one that escapes both the fragility of illusion and the exposure of authority. The highest level belongs not to the ruler whose face is carved into stone, but to the figure whose face is never seen, whose name is never spoken, and yet whose will bends kings, deceivers, servants, and even the naive. That ascent leads to the shadow puppeteer, the untouchable manipulator who rules without throne, without title, without visibility. It is the rarest form of power, the one that endures when all crowns have fallen and all empires have burned. But before you can glimpse that, you must ask yourself, would you rather command openly, feared but fragile, or would you rather vanish into invisibility and rule forever? And so we arrive at the final ascent, the fifth and most rarefied level, the shadow puppeteer. Here, manipulation transcends visibility, transcends authority, transcends even deception itself. At this stage, the manipulator becomes untouchable because he no longer rules with a crown, no longer commands with armies, no longer seduces with masks. He rules invisibly, bending others to his will while remaining unseen, untouched, and unknown. The shadow puppeteer does not sit on a throne. He builds thrones for others and whispers into the ears of those who occupy them. He does not risk the exposure of power or the fragility of lies because he has dissolved into the machinery of control itself. At this level, manipulation ceases to be a skill and becomes an invisible empire. The shadow puppeteer is never suspected, for his face is absent from the stage. Kings appear to command, but it is his hand that guides them. Deceivers weave their webs, but the silk was spun from his design. Servants enforce decrees, but the orders trace back to him. Even the naive cheering in the streets are moved by tides he has stirred without their knowledge. He shapes the currents of history without ever stepping into the light, and this is why his power endures when rulers are toppled, when deceivers are unmasked, when servants are discarded. He is not the actor in the play, he is the playwright, unseen by the audience, directing the drama through others who never realize whose vision they are performing. Consider the dynasties that fall while their financiers remain untouched. Consider the kings who rule for decades, only to be remembered as pawns of their unseen advisors. Consider the revolutions that erupt, appearing spontaneous, while in truth, they were cultivated by hidden hands planting seeds years before. This is the work of the shadow puppeteer, to bend not men alone, but the very structure of reality around them. His manipulations are not confined to words or commands. They are systems, institutions, cultures, myths. He does not need to lie, because he engineers truth itself. He does not need to enforce, because he builds worlds where enforcement happens naturally. His power is the deepest, because it is untraceable, and therefore unassailable. But there is a cost to such mastery, and it is one that only the rarest can bear. To become the shadow puppeteer is to surrender identity. He does not crave recognition, because recognition would destroy him. He does not seek applause, because applause would reveal him. He lives behind curtains, never stepping into the glow of admiration, never enjoying the intoxication of visible authority. His victory is silence, his reward is anonymity, his satisfaction is in the unseen grip he has over everything that moves. To most men, this would feel like death. To the shadow puppeteer, it is immortality. For while kings are assassinated, deceivers exposed, servants discarded, the shadow endures, surviving through every change of dynasty, every collapse of empire. And here lies the agitation for you, the listener. Can you endure such erasure? Can you bear to wield power without ever claiming it? To orchestrate worlds while receiving no praise? Few can. Most are seduced by the visible rewards of dominance. Crowns, titles, the cheers of crowds. But those rewards are fragile, perishable, destined to turn into targets. The shadow puppeteer needs no such things, and this is why he outlasts all who came before. His is the power that leaves no fingerprints, the rule that carries no name, the dominion that no revolution can topple because the people never even know he exists. This is not merely manipulation, it is godlike creation. The promise of this level is the promise of permanence. To rise here is to escape disposability, to escape exposure, to escape overthrow. It is to become the hidden author of reality itself, shaping events through others, vanishing into invisibility while your will echoes in every corner of the world. It is the final liberation from the fragility of being seen, the fragility of being known, the fragility of being vulnerable. At level 5, you do not merely manipulate men, you manipulate time, history, and destiny. And once you reach it, no one can ever take it from you, because no one can even find you. That is why the shadow puppeteer is the highest form of power, the one that swallows all others. So the question remains, will you remain naive, a pawn in chains? Will you serve loyal and disposable? Will you deceive, brilliant but fragile? Will you dominate, feared but exposed? Or will you vanish into shadow, unseen but eternal? There are 5 levels of manipulation. Most never leave the first. A few rise through the second and third. Fewer still reach the fourth, and the fifth is reserved for those rare enough, ruthless enough, and patient enough to let go of their face, their name, their recognition, and embrace invisibility as the only true path to sovereignty. If you can endure that silence, you will not simply wield power, you will become it. If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you already knows this truth. Most men will die, naive, never seeing the strings that bind them, never rising beyond the illusions that keep them docile. But you, if you are still here, are already pulling at the knots. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to leave the herd, to abandon comfort for clarity, to rise beyond obedience into sovereignty? Are you willing to pay the price of becoming dangerous? If this message touched you, if it made sense, write in the comments. I cut the strings. Let's see how many here are truly ready to ascend beyond manipulation. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important. Much more than you imagine. See you there.